Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome in a new webinar of Lab9 Pro. Today, the fourth edition already of our Apple Insights sessions. Today, the Apple Tech Summit that was passing by last week in Cupertino, and we had the amazing opportunity that we were personally invited with Lab9 Pro at the Apple headquarters in Cupertino, and Jordi was the man who could attend that special summit in Cupertino for 2 or 3 days it was. So today during the webinar we will give a throwback to the deep dives in Apple's latest development strategies, and we will give you some inside information what was passing by during the Tech Summit. So I would like to introduce Jordi, our technical Apple architect here at Lab9 Pro. And today we have also a special guest, and that's Owen, the Engelsman of the Lie, who will attend this webinar as well because he attended the Apple Tech Summit also in Cupertino. So I think Jordi and Owen will give you some nice insights of their trip to Cupertino. So Jordi and Owen, I will give the mic to you. If you have any questions during this webinar, that's important one, just put them in the chat. We will answer them after the webinar. Also, the webinar is recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel during the day. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, I think people know me. So Owen, please introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Owen den Engelsman, and yes, it means Owen the Englishman, which I'm not. I work for the company LAI. We are a training company, so we are really experts in training people in the world of Apple. And I'm also part of the sales training team of Apple, but that's a different story. So that's a short story about me.
Okay, cool. So we went to the ACN Tech Summit in Cupertino. We came back last weekend, and of course, we're going to talk about that today. But I think for most people, it's kind of not obvious what ACN is. So let's take a step back and explain a couple of things. So first and foremost, what is the Apple Consultants Network? That's a group of Apple service providers worldwide, generally specialized in small and medium business. And we're all Apple certified, right? Lab9 Pro is somewhat different in that regard, and that's more prevalent in Europe than it is in the US, where we are an Apple premium partner, so our stores can sell to consumers. We are also an authorized education specialist, so we can move those boxes as well. And we are also an Apple authorized service center. So we are allowed to do repairs on the devices, as well as a member of the Apple Consultants Network, which means that we have technicians in-house that have the expertise to do that consulting business, where it is to integrate, manage, or secure Apple devices at work. So that makes us somewhat unique in that regard. And Owen, you are a little bit of an oddball in the ACN world as well, aren't you? Do you care to elaborate?
Yeah, so we don't do much consultancy as LAI ourselves. And why we remembered it's because we train most of the consultants. So most consultants in the network are trained by my company, and it's a good idea to join the consult as well. So we really know what's going on in the world of Apple consultancy, and that's the reason why I'm the oddball there.
Yeah, and we actually go back like 12 years, right? You trained me way back. My first like service technician trainings were with you, and then the first support trainings as well, right?
Yeah, so I've seen you grow from a junior to senior. I can call you senior now, right?
Hey, okay. Okay. So then the second thing, why a summit and why in Cupertino? I think every attendee can somewhat relate to the fact that it's hard to have a week long to focus on your own self-development. I'm very lucky in that regard that Lab9 allows me to do that multiple times a year. And then why Cupertino? Well, I mean, I think you know that most people of Apple live somewhere in the US. Like we had presentations from Apple leadership and Apple engineers, so the people that actually work on the tools and that we use. Those reside mostly in the US and specifically more in Cupertino. So it's easier for Apple to fly people domestically than it is to bring them in internationally, especially given the current climate over there. So that's why the summit was held in Cupertino. We had a couple of rules. We had to wear our badge all the time. That was an easy one. We had to stay within the group, especially on Apple Campus and on Apple Park. We could not wander around, so we did not have a quest to find Tim Cook's office, or we did not venture to the basements to find any new products. There was no strict photography policy, which means that we were not allowed to take pictures. And for the people of Apple that might be watching or will watch the recording, I did not take any pictures on Apple premises. I was a very good boy. Owen was as well. So we behaved like we should have. And then maybe the most annoying, quote unquote, part for this webinar, everything that we saw was Apple Confidential, and we are not allowed to distribute it. So we did not take pictures of the presentations. We cannot share the resources that were shared with us. There are some sessions that I cannot talk about, and I was asked not to name drop any speakers as well. So I will try and tell you as much as possible without breaking any of those rules. If I then go to the agenda, day one was, of course, the most special one, right? We went to Apple Campus and Apple Park. The second and third day, we were stuck in a hotel in downtown San Jose. So that was still very interesting, but a little bit less special. If I move to day one, just to set the scene, right? We drove buses from the hotel to Apple Campus. We entered Infinite Loop, and they walked us into Town Hall, sent everyone down on their seats, and then this was introduction.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much. But life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it, you can influence it, you can build your own things that other people can use.
Good evening. I'm Steve Jobs from Apple Computer. We're very glad to be here tonight.
I think you always had to be a little different to buy an Apple computer. And I think you still have to think differently to buy an Apple computer. And I think the people that do buy them, they are the people that are not just out to get a job done, they're out to change the world.
What a computer is to me is it's the most remarkable tool that we've ever come up with. And it's the equivalent of a bicycle for our minds.
This is iMac. The whole thing is translucent. You can see into it. It's so cool. Pleased to announce today that I'm going to drop the interim title.
We used to stand at the intersection of technology and humanity, and to make something for people that want to bring this into their lives and use it for things that make them more creative, not just make them more productive.
This amazing little device holds 1,000 songs, and it goes right in my pocket. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? And we are calling it iPhone. We have a chance, if we stay focused and choose wisely, to really continue to impact people's lives in some small way for the better. There's an old Wayne Gretzky quote that I love. I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it has been. And we've always tried to do that at Apple, since the very, very beginning. And we always will. So thank you very, very much for being part of this.
That's a great start, isn't it? I think if you play that video for any room that's filled with really Apple diehard fans, that kind of hits. Town Hall is really an iconic place. Many products were announced there, like the iPod in 2001, the XR, for anyone that remembers that, in 2002, all the way to the iPhone 4S in 2011, which was pretty special. The moment that you walk into Town Hall, there's a Steve Jobs quote. The building is filled with it, right? But that one really says something. If you do something and it turns out pretty great, then you should do something else wonderful, not dwell on it for too long. Just figure out what's next. And that's what we're doing, right? We're doing that day to day. So before the actual leadership presentation started, we had a small introduction. There were 165 attendees from 15 countries. I'm happy to say that I was the only Belgian there. I think there were 5 people from the Benelux, a couple of people from Germany, from France, etc. And the goal of the summit was clear, right? We were there to share our knowledge, to learn, and to network. So if I move to the day one highlights, the leadership presentations for the Apple people watching, this is a stock image. It's not a picture that I took. Unfortunately, I cannot share any details of the presentations nor name who of leadership that was there, but the presentations were very inspiring and especially positive. Like we were told a story about how Apple moved into enterprise and where Steve Jobs really wasn't a fan of doing that. If he does something or as Apple does something, they want to be the best. And Steve Jobs never thought that he could be the best at enterprise. And then came the iPhone, and the whole C-level bought iPhones, of course, and they wanted to do, well, basic things like receive their company emails on it. And that was the first steps that Apple took in enterprise. Fast forward to now, where we have the strongest Mac lineup ever with Apple Silicon. They shared some numbers. I cannot share them. This one I can because it's public. In 2024, there was a 15% year-over-year growth for the Mac, which is 3 times faster than the market, right? The Mac actually is the top selling computer in enterprise, and it's no longer the expensive device. And I think many of our customers that kind of run the numbers now can relate to the fact that a Mac nowadays is cheaper than an equivalent Windows device, especially if you're looking into leasing options and residual value. Owen, what were your thoughts or takeaways from the leadership presentations?
So first of all, they were really inspiring, even though we cannot share who was speaking there. But I think it's really good to sort of understand how Apple came into the enterprise. And just like you said, Steve didn't believe in like, okay, we're not going to make devices for the enterprise. We're going to make devices for people to drive creativity, to enrich people's life. And that caused people to really want to use the device also at work, in the enterprise. And because of that, because C-level people bought it like in their like in the private device, they wanted to use it at the office. They went to the IT department like, hey, I want this to work, and I don't care what you say, but I'm going to use this. So the drive to use Apple device enterprise came from the user. And I think that was really inspiring, that we really drive that creativity and enrich people's lives with our devices, and that's why they want to use it in enterprise. I think that was the best takeaway from that session.
Perfect. So after our leadership presentations, we got on the bus again and we went to Apple Park. Before we entered Apple Park, we actually stopped by the visitor center. If you're ever in the San Francisco area, it's a really nice place to stop. It's a public space, so you can enter it. It's right across the street of Apple Park. And it has the same design language as Apple Park, right? So you have the ginormous windows, the curved glass, the curved roof, the staircase that looks like it's floating and holding up itself. It's a very nice building. It's an architectural marvel. And the building itself is split up in 3 parts. So you have the augmented reality experience, which is on display here, where there is this set of Apple Park, which you can hover over with an iPad. They hand you an iPad. And it shows how strong the iPad can be with AR as well. You see like visuals of Apple Park. You can zoom in on certain buildings, like the parking building, the fitness building, Steve Jobs Theater, to even details like how the wind is being used from the valley to cool down the whole building most of the time. Then in the middle, you have an actual Apple Store. So the only difference between that Apple Store and all the other ones in the world is that this sells exclusive merchandise. So you can buy T-shirts, mugs, coffee mugs, pens, baby clothing, etc. And this is the only place in the world where you can do that. So for, again, those 156 people that went there, we all bought stuff, right? And then last but not least, in the corner of the building, there is a Cafe Max. So for people that don't know, many of the Apple employee buildings have a cafeteria called Cafe Max. And this one is public, so you can go and have a coffee, and it features some Apple latte art on top of it. Now, on on the outside of the building, there's an art installation that Apple commissioned called Mirage. And that's like glass panels that are split across the place, and they're made from sand from deserts all over the world. And by combining several pieces of sand, you can get very nice colors in those things. So if I pull up some pictures, on the left you can see the building. So again, those ginormous windows, the ginormous glass doors, the roof. There's actually a second level to the visitor center, which was closed whilst we were there. If you go on there, you can actually have an aerial view of Apple Park and you can see the circle somewhat better. Top right picture is then the merchandise that's on sale. So those are the t-shirts. And bottom right is the art installation, right? And then the magic happened, of course. We walked across the street and we were allowed to go behind the gates into Apple Park. Now, I want to say that this was a very controlled experience. There were people from Apple lined up to ensure that we did not walk anywhere that we were not supposed to. We walked a little bit on the outside of the ring. We went inside of the building and were allowed into a fenced-off reception area, right? We were not allowed to move anywhere else in that building. So I do want to give a shout out to one of the other ACN people in the Benelux. That's Route 3. One of their engineers, Jordi Wetteman, was actually invited to WWDC, and he had a more free experience at Apple Park. He wrote some blog posts about it. If you're curious about the building and what's inside of it, do read that. So we had a reception there, and we were allowed to network with the leadership people. If I go again to some pictures, we did not get this nice aerial view. Again, for the people of Apple watching, these are all stock pictures, not mine. We walked on the outside ring and we entered just over Cafe Max. And then we saw for example, the Rainbow Arch, but we were not allowed to go up to it. If you look at the top right, that's a picture of the hallways. And you can see again that enormous curved glass. And what struck me the most is how immaculate the whole building is. The glass is so clean, the floors are clean. People were apparently cleaning all the time, right? You could not see anything on the floors or on the windows. And then the bottom right picture is Cafe Max. So that's an inside-outside part of the cafeteria. And that actually closes off. So that's an enormous sliding glass door. And the moment that we left Apple Park, they actually closed it. And it was surprising how fast that went. Owen, what did you think of Apple Park?
Well, first of all, it's a beautiful building. And there was actually a gift from Apple to the employees. So the employees have the best experience to work and drive creativity even for developing beautiful products as Apple is doing. You can actually see like all the details in the building, like the staircase, like it's almost like floating. Everything they thought of, it just like the products of Apple. So it was literally Apple in a building. It was beautiful to see. Absolutely.
Great. So let's go to day 2. Was no longer in Apple Park. We were stuck in a Hilton in San Jose. There were worse places to be. It was freezing cold though, and you wouldn't say from the pictures, true American fashion, the aircon was up all the way. Now, I cannot share details about the sessions for Battle Apple practices. Those were specifically geared towards Apple service partners. The only thing I can say there is we will, of course, use what we learned to further improve our server offerings and apply those learnings so we can serve you even better, right? Also, on the session about managed Apple accounts, I won't really elaborate. In the previous Apple Insights webinar, we spoke about those at length and all the changes that are coming very soon. If you have any questions about managed Apple accounts, if you want to start rolling them out, if you're debating on whether you should roll them out or not, contact us. We'll be more than happy to help. The other 3 sessions that I highlight here, I will talk about, so I will skip to the next one, which was about cybersecurity. And this was given by an Apple engineer from Australia. I think he was very jet-lagged, but it was a very fun guy. And he talked about cybersecurity issues in a different way than most people approach it. So he started, of course, by telling us how bad actors get onto systems, right? And the essence there is you're not being hacked. People are just logging in. And he then continued to say that companies should focus less, in the first place, of course, on things that have limited results. So in Australia, the government identified the Essential 8 model, which are 8 things that you should do to cover like 95% of attacks. Once you've done that, then you can continue to do the more expensive things, right? And with expensive, we mean like expensive anti-malware systems, EDR solutions, etc. People tend to focus on that first and then do the other things afterwards. You should really do it the other way around. And I want to actually cover those essential 8 models just to repeat itself. This is what we preach to all of our customers all the time, but it's important to do it again. So how can you cover yourself for cyber attacks? Well, patch your operating systems, patch your applications. This is something that we automate with our customers via an MDM, the mobile device management system. So we can ensure that that happens automatically. There are certain apps that have a daily release cycle. So for example, Google Chrome almost every day releases a new version with security patches in them. It's important to get onto that update as soon as possible, because if you don't, you're vulnerable, right? Some other things you can do, application control. So you can actually sanction what apps can be used on your systems and what not. It's important. If you're an app developer, they spoke about application hardening, but that's not really effective for people that use the devices. Microsoft Office macros, if you don't use them, if you don't need them, disable them. They are actually a security risk, and most people don't actually use them. Other things that we preach to our customers all the time is to restrict administrative privileges, right? Not everyone needs admin rights all the time, and there are systems that we can leverage to make that a better experience. And then the most important one, multi-factor authentication. Zeno, I'm sorry, but if you are in this webinar and you don't have MFA enabled on your most important accounts, stop the webinar, leave, and enable multi-factor authentication. It is that important. I mean, there are still people that buy anti-malware systems and expensive firewalls and do whatever inspection on there that they want, and they don't have MFA enabled. You should really do it the other way around. The last bullet of the Essential 8 model was regular backups, and there the engineer had a good quote. There are 2 types of people, people who back up and people who will do next time. And that's really true. If you suddenly lose a lot of data, you will start thinking about your backups next time. The session then continued to talk about Apple's platform security, how Apple is secure by design, of course. So you can leverage things like FileVault to encrypt your data, or biometrics, Touch ID, Face ID, to unlock your systems. You can also leverage Apple's device configuration, right? Like I said, people aren't hacking you, they're logging in. That's because the end user makes mistakes, and you can limit the mistakes that they can make via a mobile device management system. So you can like disallow trusting certificates, you can disallow trusting unknown enterprise apps, for example. And then if those mistakes cannot be made, your users are more secure in the end. Owen, you were in a different security session, I think. Do you have anything else to add in this regard?
Well, one of the most important things as well is to basically run the latest operating system. So always try to upgrade your fleet to the latest operating system, because the latest operating system has the latest security features integrated in macOS, which are not available in the previous operating system. So that's one of the important things, but also the detail that Apple is ensuring your devices are secure, like from the factory. Every little device, every device they make is being X-rayed. If there's one little change difference, some little chip added, anything like that, it is noticed. So every device that ships out from Apple is checked by Apple to make sure that the device is as designed and nothing is added to it, like in a chain attack. So it's like something happens in the supply chain, we know, or Apple knows, and that's really important for us, for our safety, and for the safety of your customers, obviously.
Absolutely. So then I continue to the other session. This was a fun one, the Mac Skills one. So let me start by saying that Lab9 in our stores, we give free introductory courses on your Apple devices and on certain applications every Saturday. We at Lab9 Pro then have paid courses, of course, for more professional apps, also for IT. Owen, you sell training as well. But did you know that Apple also has free available training on their website? So of course they do today at Apple in the Apple stores. That's more consumer focused. But here you have 3 URLs, and I just put them in so everyone can use them. If you go to apple.co/MacSkills, you can actually find several WebEx trainings for your end users that focus on how to use their Apple devices in a business-oriented way. It has several levels to it. And this session, the Mac Skills one, explained those 3 URLs, what they do and what they contain, and then went on to give some examples on what was covered in some of the more advanced Mac Skills ones. So things like advanced Spotlight uses or smart folders. If you navigate to apple.co/tech skills, you will actually find very basic training on help desk support. So people that need to support their Macs, they can get their basics there. Apple.co/readiness then covers basic IT stuff. So for example, what's new for IT, which is interesting with the WWDC changes. Also, how to use Apple Business Manager, right? Or even how to start building a zero-touch enrollment. The upside of this is that it's all free. The downside is that it's in English, of course, not in our time zone, and it's pretty basic. So I think our offerings go hand in hand with this. If you have any requirements of training, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to help. But do look into these URLs as well, because they cover a lot of great basics. Now, Owen, this whole training part is much more up your alley. What did you think of the session?
So I mean, obviously the sessions are quite good, but it's important to basically have your employees just trained regularly, so make sure they have the knowledge on par. And these sessions, what Apple is delivering is like, see it as an addendum. It's like an extra that you can attend just to keep more up to date and knows what's going on. But also, like when we look at the enterprise, a lot of people they suddenly have the choice to choose a Mac, and they can choose the Mac themselves, but they never use the Mac themselves before, which causes some challenges in the actual user experience because they've never used it. So is it difficult? Well, no, it's different. And that's why Apple is also trying to help these employees with the Mac skills training. So to make sure that they are even able to use the devices as easy as possible, even if they haven't used a Mac before, to make them more efficient if they're not part of the Apple world yet or just new in it. So I think that's good that they really focus on enterprise and on the business with these free sessions, which are really good to attend.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and also a shout out, yeah, don't forget the tech series, because we do have, or Apple does have, sessions in Dutch. So if you want to know the link, Jordi can probably provide the link for the tech series, which are basically able to attend for customers and for partners, and they're on a regular basis. Every month, the Apple SE team are presenting the tech series in both English and Dutch, so the Benelux team. So shout out to Apple for those sessions.
Absolutely. So then we continue to the next session, and it's the video that will start. It's a great feature, right? That was the introduction to the Apple University session. Now, this isn't a physical place. This is an internal program at Apple that ensures that the Apple DNA is passed on to their new colleagues. It showed us a little bit of the inner workings of Apple and how Apple doesn't really behave like a large enterprise, but more like a small business, right? They're not focused on business units, but they're focused on functionality. And they put some core values in there like emotion, empowerment, simplicity, beauty. And that's really apparent in everything that Apple does, right? We had an example of an interview where there was a person that was responsible for the design of the paper wrapping that's around your Apple Watch charger in the box. Something that 99% of the people just rip off and throw away. They spend a lot of time on that. And then once they have that special paper, they can apply it to other products, right? So for example, that's then the same things that they use on the MagSafe charger, for example. Owen, what did you think of the Apple University session?
Oh, I think it was great. It really shows us the inner working of the thought of Apple. So they spent so much detail on everything, like you said, the paper wrapping of the charger, but also the packaging itself. Just the how long it takes to take the lid of the box. So for us, we're not too frustrated, like, oh, it doesn't get off, but you still like really want to like, oh, I want to take it out and I want to see it. So it gives you more joy. The thought of everything what Apple is doing, that was great. That's what they explained. Every detail what Apple does, it's beautiful.
Perfect. So then we go to day 3. And again, we were in the Hilton, not in Apple Park, of course. We cannot share the sessions again on Apple practices, and I won't dive into the session about AI. I think everyone is talking about AI all over the place. I just want to say, I think Apple has had a head start in AI with machine learning, and it's the chosen device to run local large language models, right? The only thing I want to share about the AI presentation was a quote. We think that Apple has the most advanced and most interesting platforms as an endpoint for AI. Cloud AI will, of course, be important, but the future is hybrid. The return on investment is going to make that happen. AI is going to rapidly change everyday life. Everyone needs to be ready. This is new industrial revolution. That's a pretty big statement. And I think like Apple Intelligence may not be in the best of daylights because they are kind of struggling to get started with that. But actually being able to run those local language models on device is great. But that's the only thing that I'm going to share about the AI session. I'm actually going to go ahead and skip to this one. This one was one of my favorites, the platform single sign-on session. And I'm going to break a rule. I'm going to name drop the engineer that gave it just because he was so vocal about his move to Apple himself. This was a session given by Sean Rabbit. And if that name would be known to you, he used to work at Apple before he went on and worked for Jamf, specifically on their identity team and working on Jamf Connect. In the past, he has been pretty vocal about platform SSO and some of the shortcomings there. So now he's back at Apple and he's giving a presentation about platform single sign-on. So that was very interesting to see. Now he had some small tidbits that are important. Platform single sign-on, the version for Sequoia, specifically for Microsoft Entra, is now generally available. So Microsoft now supports it. You can start using it. And they treat it the same as Windows Hello for Business. So they consider this a phishing-resistant authentication method, which is the strongest one that they have, right? Some other tidbits, Omnissa, for the people that know that came off the VMware products. They have an identity product as well, and they have platform single sign-on in preview right now, coming generally available soon. And Okta, who has been offering platform single sign-on, but only the password syncing option, has promised that secure enclave support is coming soon. Now, in the previous Apple Insights webinar, we spoke at length about the changes to platform single sign-on in macOS Tahoe. Sean spoke about that a little bit as well, but he highlighted some shortcomings still. I'm not going to speak in his name. These are my thoughts. I really wish that Apple would make like an authentication method where there is no password at all. You can just sign in with a passkey or anything. Not a smart card. I don't wish smart cards on anyone. But now, as it is, you can do platform single sign-on during the setup assistant from macOS Tahoe. You still have to choose between password syncing. And that's really cool because now you can have your Entra password, for example, to unlock at boot, but also unlock the file vault volume. And it's aware of password changes. So if you change the password on the Entra side, if you reset it, it will work to unlock that file vault volume, which is crazy, which is great. But that doesn't work together with the secure enclave model, which is somewhat more secure. But then you have to set a password or a PIN code manually. That's not the same as your identity. So there are some things. If you use Secure Enclave as platform single sign-on, you now have an option to enforce biometrics and not allow just the PIN code to log in. So that's great. And then one thing I learned, and that's a question to our customers that want to use platform single sign-on with Microsoft specifically, there is a big feature request there. Apparently, you cannot lock down platform single sign-on to a specific Entra tenant. So that means if I set up my Mac with platform single sign-on and everything is configured, and I give that Mac to Owen, he can log into that Mac. He can do the whole SSO with his LIE account, which is not something that we would want, of course, but still, that's something that's up for debate now with Microsoft, and I hope that they change that soon. Also, what I learned during WWDC, they announced authenticated guest mode, so you can actually log into a guest user with SSO credentials, and then right afterwards, they showed logging into your Mac with an NFC chip. So with a item in your Apple Wallet, for example. I thought that was only for authenticated guest mode, but apparently that'll work with regular user accounts as well, which was news to me. That's great. I think there are a lot of people that will want to use that. Sean did share that will take a while because you're now requiring an update from the identity provider. So Microsoft, for example, you are requiring hardware, so NFC readers, because the current Macs do not have an NFC chip. Maybe that'll change in the future. And if you want to use the pass in the Apple Wallet, you will need some provider there as well. So that'll take some time, but it's very cool that will work. Owen, you didn't follow any platform single sign-on sessions, did you? Do you have any additional thoughts here?
No, I think it's the whole idea of signing in with an NFC card is really great. So especially when you're in healthcare, these are features that I think healthcare organizations are waiting for, and maybe also at schools, those public-facing computers that you can just access by an NFC card. I see a lot of benefit in that, and that's all I have to add. You did a great job explaining it.
Thank you. On to the next one, and this was a pretty technical topic as well. That was a session about the macOS Security Compliance Project. Now, for the people that don't know, Apple supports an open source project that allows you to adhere your Mac to security benchmarks. So if you are an organization that needs to be compliant with a certain security benchmark, for example, CIS, NIST, or the others, you have some tools available that you can easily make your Mac compliant without having to make scripts and profiles manually. Now, I really like the graphic on the right. The Apple engineer that gave the session was very vocal about that. So privacy is protection for the user, security is protection for your data, and compliance is protection for the organization as a whole, right? They spoke about how that open source project works. It's a little bit of work. There is a tool available from Jamf called Jamf Compliance Editor that you can use. If you're using Jamf Pro or not, doesn't matter. So if you're using Intune, you can use that as well to more easily generate the guidance and the profiles and scripts that you need to upload in your MDM to then apply those. The only thing, and that's something that I tell our customers that are working with this as well, like please read the benchmark and understand what you're applying here. These things can be very strict, and you are allowed to make exceptions on that. So, for example, the CIS guideline, says that you need to disable AirDrop. I think if I do that here internally, people will try and kill me. So that's an exception that we make, for example. And if you are looking into applying security benchmarks to your fleet and you need some help with that, of course, again, we can help you on that regard. When you give training for support and then also IT, does your training talk about the macOS Security Compliance Project? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now with the current compliance that we have to basically adhere. Yeah, this is a very important topic. It's not going really in depth with it, but the fact that Apple is supporting this, they even have this on the website. Yeah, this is a clear indicator that this is something that we really should talk about, and this is something that companies should really leverage. It's open source, it's available. You can even find a link on the Apple website for people in the chat. I've added the link in the chat to the Apple website of it. But yes, it's a very important topic, and it's important for your company to basically look at this and adhere these security standards and compliancy.
Absolutely. And then the last session that I want to highlight is something that we spent a lot of time on, especially our sales team actually. That's lifecycle management. So on the left, you can see some reasons why you want to do lifecycle management, right? You want to preserve your cash flow, you want to simplify contracts, adapt to business changes, of course, if you're growing or even shrinking. You want to modernize your employee tools, and you want to increase fleet consistency. Like Lab9 internally, we decommissioned all of our Intel devices in favor of Apple Silicon. That's something that we considered. Now, a Mac on average has 3 times the residual value of a PC after 4 years. So you kind of want to hit that sweet spot on when the residual value is still high and there's a business case to have a refresh, right? Faster processors, higher productivity, better battery life, etc. The optimum refresh time is somewhere in the middle of that. And if you refresh late, you kind of create missed opportunity costs. So on the right here, you see an image that explains the whole lifecycle management. If you're starting from zero, if you don't have any devices, you have to plan and design your fleet, of course. Then you need to continue on and actually source your devices. So you need to consider financing, you need to consider leasing. You might want an extra insurance on your devices. Once you have the actual devices, you want to stage the enrollment process, right? You want to put your MDM in place and have that be ready. You then have to deliver the devices to your end users. And once they are in use, you will have devices that break. You will need to repair or replace them. You will want to have some inventory on that. You want to have details on how those devices look, right? And in the end, there will be a time that you need to refresh your devices and consider trading them in or recycling them. And that's something our sales team is ready for to guide you through that whole journey, right? So please reach out to us if you have any questions on that. Oh, and this was also a session that you followed, I think. What did you think?
I think it's just really important to refresh the devices very early on. And the reason why is like I said, Apple is focusing on the end user. And currently the talent acquisition market is really hard for companies. I think all the people here in the chat who are available looking at this session know about it's really hard to get employees. So getting employees is one thing, but retaining the employees and keeping them happy is very, very, very important. And part of their experience is all about what they use the whole day. That's their computer. So make sure that those devices are refreshed regularly so you keep those people happy, and happy people stay. That's the very important thing to remember. Happy people stay, keep your employees happy. And this is one way of keeping them happy.
That's perfect. So let's move on to the conclusion. Was it worth it? Did we learn anything? I think, yes, we learned something, right? And without naming numbers, I do want to say this was a quite expensive endeavor to go to. The so-called hallway track, so what you learn by talking to your peers there is very nice and it's really great. But I do believe for the people that now are jealous of us going to Cupertino, there are other events such as JNUC in the US, but also Mac at UK or Mac Sysadmins in Göteborg that offer more knowledge for less of a cost. So we kind of learned how to do things the Apple way, but I think many people need to start first looking into the technical parts of things. Nevertheless, it was a great experience. I really enjoyed my time there. And if this event is put up again, I really hope so, I would love to go back, of course. What were your final thoughts, Owen?
So I don't see these events as expensive. I see them as they cost a lot of money, but they bring value. And I think for everyone here, absolutely attend other sessions. See it as an investment. It's good for networking. It's good for getting more knowledge. And it definitely gives you value. Yes, it costs money, but it's an investment in yourself and in the company. So I would definitely attend any other session. And this was a great session to attend. It was definitely value. Absolutely.
All right. So I want to close out with this picture. These were all the people that attended the summit from EMEA. So there was over 29 people, 2 of which were Apple employees. And I think we kind of know a lot of people there. It was fun to see